In a small riverside town, life moved at a slow and steady pace. Among its many residents was a 24-year-old young man named Aarav. Every day before the sun rose, he would wake up to help his father at their modest dairy shop. The shop wasn't big or famous, but it had been the family's livelihood for years. Aarav's duty was to deliver milk to households across town, carrying heavy cans on his shoulders as he walked from street to street. The work was honest, but to Aarav, it often felt endless and exhausting. Under the burning heat, sweat dripping down his back, he wondered if this was all life had to offer him. Deep inside, he longed for something greater, success that would earn him respect, comfort that would free him from physical labor, and opportunities that could open doors to a better future. While his father was content with their simple way of life, Aarav was restless. Each delivery felt like a reminder of how far he was from his dreams. The thought of spending years doing the same hard work frightened him. He admired people who rode motorbikes, dressed well, or owned shops of their own. Compared to them, he felt stuck in place. Aarav wasn't lazy, he simply wanted progress. But ambition can be dangerous when it grows faster than patience. Day after day, as he lifted the heavy milk cans, a thought began to form in his mind. There must be a smarter way. Why work so hard when a small change could make life easier? This quiet question would soon lead Aarav down a path he never imagined, a shortcut that seemed clever at first, but would come at a devastating cost. One morning, as Aarav struggled under the weight of the milk cans, an idea quietly slipped into his mind. It was simple, almost too simple to ignore. If he added just a little water to each can, the milk would increase in volume. That way he could deliver more without carrying extra weight or working longer hours. To him, it seemed less like cheating and more like working smarter. After all, the families who bought the milk would still get their daily supply, and no one would notice a slight change in taste or thickness. At first, Aarav hesitated. He had grown up watching his father run the dairy shop with honesty and discipline. But temptation whispered louder than caution. Why should I struggle every single day, he thought, when I can make my life easier with one small trick? Finally, he gave in. The next morning, he mixed water into the milk before starting his deliveries. The difference was barely visible, and no customer raised a question. The success of his plan gave him confidence. Day after day, he repeated the process, each time convincing himself that it wasn't truly wrong. His father never checked the cans because he trusted Aarav completely, and this blind trust became Aarav's shield. He began to feel clever, almost proud of his shortcut. To him, it wasn't stealing, it was innovation. Little did he realize that shortcuts built on dishonesty never last forever. For now, the scheme seemed perfect. Lighter loads, faster rounds, and the same earnings. Aarav believed he had found his way out of endless hard work. Yet behind that small act of convenience, a much larger consequence was quietly waiting for him. The months rolled by, and soon the town faced one of the harshest summers in years. The once flowing river shrank to a trickle, wells ran dangerously low, and clean water became a rare treasure. Families began to ration every drop, using only what was necessary to survive the heat. Yet, in the middle of this scarcity, Aarav continued his secret habit. Every morning, he poured water into the milk cans, never stopping to think about where that water came from or what condition it was in. To him, the shortcut had become routine, almost natural. Then, one morning at the bustling marketplace, the town chief made an announcement that caught everyone's attention. The grand annual festival was approaching, and this year it would include a special honor. The supplier who delivered the purest, freshest milk would be chosen to serve the entire town during the celebrations. As a reward, the winner would receive not only recognition but also a golden prize, enough to change a person's life. When Aarav heard this, his heart began to race. This was the opportunity he had been waiting for, a chance to prove himself, to gain independence, and maybe even open his own shop. He imagined riding a new motorbike through the streets, respected by all who once overlooked him. He promised himself he would work harder, deliver better, and finally achieve the life he had always dreamed of. Yet even with this vow, old habits clung tightly. Despite knowing that purity would be tested, Aarav could not resist taking the same shortcut. A small voice inside warned him, but ambition silenced it. He convinced himself that no one would ever notice a little water. What harm could it do? He was certain fortune was within his grasp, unaware that destiny was preparing a painful lesson. The long-awaited festival day finally arrived. The entire town gathered in the marketplace, which was alive with color, music, and celebration. Bright banners fluttered in the hot breeze, children laughed and ran between stalls, and vendors displayed sweets, fruits, and decorations. But amidst the joy, the biggest anticipation centered around the contest for the purest milk. Judges sat at a long wooden table, ready to taste samples from each supplier. Winning this honor meant respect, pride, and the coveted golden reward. Aarav walked into the crowd with a quiet confidence. His heart pounded, but he forced a smile, imagining the moment when his name would be called as the victor. He pictured his father's proud face, the crowd cheering, and his long-awaited dream finally within reach. As his turn came, he stepped forward, holding his container high. The first judge took a sip. At once, his expression froze. His eyebrows furrowed as he placed the cup down without a word. The second judge leaned toward the chief, whispering urgently. Murmurs rippled across the table. Then the chief stood and made an announcement that shattered Aarav's world. "This milk is spoiled. It has been mixed with dirty water. It is unsafe to drink." The crowd gasped in shock. People began whispering angrily, "He's been cheating us all this time." Fingers pointed, voices rose, and a wave of disappointment spread through the festival grounds. Aarav felt his chest tighten as shame burned his face. And then, among the crowd, he saw his father. No anger, no shouting, just silence, his eyes filled with quiet disappointment. That single look pierced Aarav more deeply than any insult. In that moment, he knew his shortcut had betrayed not only his town, but also the man who trusted him most. That night, after the humiliation at the festival, Aarav lay awake in his small room. The noise of the crowd still echoed in his ears, the whispers of betrayal, the accusations of dishonesty, the chief's stern voice declaring his milk unsafe. But what hurt most was not the public shame. It was the silent gaze of his father. Aarav had always believed he could endure anger, shouting, or even punishment, but that quiet look of disappointment had pierced his soul. It was as though he had broken something fragile, something that could never be repaired with words. He turned restlessly on his bed, replaying the choices that led him here. What had started as a harmless idea, just a little water to lighten his load, had grown into a habit that stole his integrity. His so-called clever shortcut had cost him everything: his dream of success, his dignity in the eyes of the town, and most painfully, his father's trust. Tears filled his eyes as he realized how far he had strayed from the values his father had lived by. As the first light of dawn touched the sky, Aarav made a decision. No more lies. No more shortcuts. He would not take the easy path again, no matter how heavy the cans or how harsh the sun. He would rebuild what he had lost, even if it took months or years. He knew it wouldn't be easy. Trust, once broken, was the hardest thing to earn back. But in that quiet morning, Aarav's heart was firm. His father deserved honesty. His town deserved purity. And he himself deserved a second chance, earned through sweat, not deceit. From that morning onward, Aarav transformed his life. Each day, before the town awoke, he rose early to fill his heavy cans only with pure, fresh milk. The work was back-breaking. The sun still scorched his skin, and sweat soaked his shirt as he carried the load through winding streets. Yet this time, he no longer searched for shortcuts. Every step, every delivery became his silent promise to himself and to his father. He would never cheat again. At first, the townspeople remained distant. Many turned away when he arrived at their doors. Some refused to buy from him, muttering about his past dishonesty. The sting of rejection was sharp, but Aarav accepted it. He knew trust was fragile, like glass. Once broken, it took time and patience to mend. So he kept delivering, day after day, without complaint. Weeks passed, then months. Slowly, change began to appear. A few families noticed that his milk was fresher, richer, and never watered down. Children who once spat out the spoiled taste now drank happily. Word spread quietly, perhaps Aarav had changed. One by one, doors began to open again. Customers who had doubted him started to greet him with small smiles, then nods of respect. Aarav didn't win the golden prize he had once dreamed of, but something far greater returned to him. People began to trust him again. More importantly, he saw pride return to his father's eyes, not through words, but through the quiet way he stood beside Aarav at the shop. For the first time, Aarav understood that respect could not be bought with wealth or shortcuts. It had to be earned slowly, through honesty, perseverance, and integrity. Life, Aarav came to realize, is like a silent mirror. It reflects back whatever you choose to put into it. For a long time, he had planted seeds of dishonesty, hoping to reap success without effort. At first, it seemed to work. Lighter loads, quicker deliveries, and no questions asked. But the harvest of deceit is always bitter. When the festival exposed his lies, Aarav tasted the full weight of his choices. Humiliation, broken trust, and dreams shattered before they had even begun. Through his struggle to rebuild, he learned that life is never fooled. It may be patient, but it is always just. Every action sends out ripples. What you give is what eventually returns. If you plant honesty, you will harvest trust. If you plant hard work, you will harvest success. But if you plant dishonesty, you will one day face the consequences, as surely as day follows night. Aarav also understood that true wealth is not measured by prizes, gold, or possessions. Respect, trust, and dignity, these are treasures that cannot be stolen or bought. They can only be earned, slowly and honestly, through daily choices. Standing once again beside his father at the dairy shop, Aarav no longer dreamed of shortcuts or easy victories. He carried his heavy milk cans with pride, knowing that each drop represented his integrity. He knew now that life was always watching, not to punish, but to keep balance. And in that balance lay the secret of lasting fulfillment. So he chose wisely. He chose honesty. And in return, life gave him something far more valuable than gold, a second chance, built on respect, trust, and the quiet strength of living truthfully.